Hi, I'm David, and I've got my shark mask on, staying safe, keeping our distance, be like a shark, swim alone but in groups, try not to bite each other, keep your mouth open and always smiling, and stay strong. I'll take that off. These are starting to sell now. We're making these shark masks thanks to the order from our governor and our mayor here in San Francisco. We're trying to protect ourselves and others and adhere to our shelter in place or snorkel in place guidelines because we want to get control of this pandemic. Don't go out and get a haircut or a bar. Florida, Georgia, Texas. Let's get control of this so we don't have a second peak and we can get back outside and get back to work, protecting the ocean and saving sharks. Hi, I'm David McGuire. I'm the director and founder of Shark Stewards, and this is our third webinar called Live Like a Shark. We're trying to share our love, our passion for sharks and ocean health because human health relies on ocean health. And as we are seeing, we're crossing over and eating wild animals, and it's coming back and biting us with this coronavirus and other viruses. We're just figuring out this system. Each week gets better. It's going to keep going with other shark talks. If you want to see the previous talks, you can go to YouTube. I'm going to try to get into my slideshow. I want to thank my board for helping out, Bill and Gretchen especially. This has been a challenge. I don't have a technician in place. You're looking at it. But this platform is really fun and it endures. So we're able to record these Live Like a Shark webinars. And, okay, transition. That's who we are. You can see me too. Great. So I don't have help other than YouTube and the internet that we all rely on. So hi, I'm David, and I'm the director and founder of Shark Stewards. We're a nonprofit based in San Francisco or Berkeley as part of the Earth Island Institute, which is a really great mothership for us, for Mother Earth and Ocean Earth. And it's a good time to be involved with Earth Island, especially during Earth Week or Earth Year or Earth for the rest of the life, if we can preserve it. And the biggest part of the Earth is the ocean. So we celebrate the other 71% all the time. And that's protecting sharks and critical marine habitat. So let me see if I can just get to the next slide. I wanted to share an exciting new development. Our website is going to be launched next week. There's still a few glitches, but it's super visual, super informative, more streamlined, and it's beautiful with this great new logo. And I want to thank Katharina out in South Africa for our new design. We're rebranding, and Dan Valentine sheltering in place somewhere in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. Thanks, Dan, for all your hard work. And again, my board and volunteers who've gone through a lot of this content and really made a stunning new platform. So look for that next week. It's kind of fun. And if you want to get a mask, you can go to the donate button at the top of your Facebook screen. For a $20 donation, it helps support our work because we're losing money like everybody else. I'm a lecturer. We do public events. There's no teaching. There's no public events, Earth Day events. We're losing a lot of money, and in foundations. Foundations are not giving because of this virus. So we're all in the same boat, sinking, but hopefully bailing out faster than we're sinking. So today, Live Like a Shark. Here's our episode 3. We're going to talk about shark diversity. We're going to continue, but give more common names and a little bit less sciencey than the last two. And we'll talk about threats and solution and what Shark Stewards does. And what Shark Stewards does is try to restore ocean health by saving sharks from overfishing and the shark fin trade and protecting critical marine habitat. And we do that through implementing shark fin trade bans, working on regulating overfishing, and protecting habitat through marine protected areas and shark sanctuaries. We'll talk about that and how you can help us do that. And you can watch these webinars on our YouTube channel, Shark Stewards, or follow us on Instagram and all that. nonsense social media. No, it's important, but it's also important to get outside. So we're going to talk about how you can get outside and how you can help with our Earth Week Bio Blitz. So Backyard Bio Blitz, created by Dr. Kaufman, our science advisor. We now have hundreds of observations. We're trying to hit 1,000. So you can go on iNaturalist and download the app and join us, or go to our website and find out how. So we're going to talk about sharks. Sharks are cool. Sharks are sharky, but they don't all look like Jaws. Carcharodon carcharias, the Greek, comes from sharp, biting, or cutting. But many sharks don't look like this cool torpedo shark. Sharks are extremely diverse, and they are highly adapted. So we talked about this in the first lecture, and you can go over what makes a shark so cool and so specialized. But there are chondrichthyan fish. They're a large group called the elasmobranchs, and the holocephalans down at the bottom are the ghost fish or rabbit fish. But the shark group that belongs to the rays, the elasmobranchs, the rays, and what we consider the sharky sharks, those torpedo-shaped cartilaginous fish with big fins, strong swimmers, specialized gut, detachable jaws, incredibly highly sensitized as predators. About me a little bit. I'm an ocean voyager. I'm a sailor. I'm a conservationist. I've crossed the ocean on expeditions many times, including using that, making films and writing towards conservation. And I research sharks too. I've been on several expeditions with the California Academy of Sciences, including our Sharktober education events each year, and getting in the water, tagging sharks, tracking sharks, and trying to apply that information, and mostly others' information, towards conservation, towards protecting sharks. So we try to apply science and information towards regulation. And I love to get in the water. I miss my friends at the San Francisco Dolphin Club. We're sheltering in place. It's been closed. We see everybody down there occasionally at Aquatic Park. Get in, social distance in the salt. I love to swim, and I love to be in the water, and I love to protect it. So we talked about how sharks are related in the various groups. So I want to share with you a little bit less science and a little bit more biology perhaps, but also just really how cool and how diverse sharks really are. They're amazing animals, been around 420 million years or so, and they've adapted and evolved into these incredible different families and groups, including the mackerel sharks. So of course, our friend, the white shark, the ones that typically we think of as sharks, it's Jaws, this one, that, yeah. Does that sound familiar? Good movie, terrified a lot of people. But not all white sharks, not all sharks look like white sharks, this fusiform or torpedo shape. Thank you, Mr. Spielberg. But the mackerel sharks are actually highly evolved. They're a fairly large family. They give live birth. They're actually endothermic. They actually generate their own body heat. They're warm-blooded, more like a mammal. And they have these really weird different shapes. They include the threshers, but they also include the basking sharks, which are filter feeders. And these sharks live off of California, about 30 feet long, in temperate oceans and an endangered species. And then the weird Goblin Shark that lives down in the deep sea is actually a laminate shark. And Lamia comes from the Greek for a kind of sea monster. Lamia was a hot-looking young woman that Zeus dallied around with, as Zeus often did. And Hera, Zeus's wife, got pissed off, as she did many times, and transformed Lamia, the beautiful princess, into a sea monster. So that's where the laminate comes from. Fun fact. But also the Megamouth Shark, another filter feeder, but a deep sea shark. And we've only seen about 100 of these deep water sharks. They're very interesting. They were described in the fossil record, and we thought they were extinct until one got fished up by the Navy off Honolulu in the 70s, and they said, hey, look back in the record, and this shark has been described from its fossilized teeth and jaws, but whoa, Megamouth, Megachasma, is actually extant or a living shark. The Requiem Sharks. Well, where did Requiem comes from? A Requiem is a funeral mass like Mozart's. The French Racon, that's what the French call the Requiem Sharks, which I think means hidden. But these are the Carchariniforms, another order of shark that's more evolved in the Galea superorder. They're the many fast-swimming sharks, but we also call them the confusing Carchariniforms, or the confused, because they look highly adapted, like the blue sharks in fast-swimming, strong-bodied, torpedo shapes with those big fins. But they're also high fin. Some of them are bottom sharks, bottom feeders. The ground sharks, the swell sharks are part of the Carchariniforms. Some give live birth, which is viviparity. Some are ovoviparous, and some are oviparous, like the swell sharks, including these, which we discovered on an expedition with the California Academy of Sciences in the deep sea off the Philippines. And they lay these little egg shapes. And that's John McCosker's hands, if you don't recognize them. We pulled these up from the deep sea, and John described this new species of swell shark, Cephalophyllum, that's related to our swell shark. Why are they called swell sharks, Billy? Good question. Swell sharks are swell. If they're disturbed, they gulp water and swell up like a balloon, and sometimes they'll grab their tail, and that helps them wedge into a rock or make them look bigger and surprise the shark or the sea lion that wants to eat it and deter it from getting eaten or predation. And the cat sharks and the ground sharks are also benthic sharks that are egg layers that live among this really large group of sharks with 270 known species. So they've been around for about 150 million years, super adapted, super cool. And then the bullhead sharks, the heterodontiforms, are, I was spacing out last week. We have a local species called the horn shark, which is a bullhead shark. They have this convoluted nary system, highly adapted to sense of smell. Sharks generally don't have big brains, but they devote most of their brain to their olfactory sense. And these guys also lay eggs. And there's only one genus in this whole family and 9 species. So not quite as diversified as the Carchariniforms. Sorry, Bill, if I'm getting too scientific, but this is what I love to do. If you're just tuning in, this is the Live Like a Shark webinar series. Hi, I'm David. Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us. If you look at the top of your Facebook Live, you can donate to us, please. We're running out of money like everybody else. I'm not on unemployment. I'm unemployed. And we're fighting to protect the ocean during this crisis in place. So we're part of Earth Island Institute in Berkeley. We are a nonprofit. Thanks for your support and thanks for tuning in. So we're talking about the diversity of sharks. So the erectolobiforms include the carpet sharks. And why they call them carpet sharks? Because they kind of sit around on the bottom feeders. And like this wobbegong shark, they just look like a piece of carpet maybe. They're highly camouflaged. But they're diverse as well. This is the zebra shark, not to be confused sometimes with the leopard shark, which is a entirely different family in the hound sharks. But these sharks live in the coral triangle. And they're kind of weird, and they're benthic, and they're super gentle, and they're going extinct. And then in this whole group of the erectolobiforms are also the whale sharks, not the basking sharks. Wrong, McGuire, that's a mistake. The whale shark is a filter feeder. It's the biggest fish in the sea. It's as big as a whale, but no, it's not a whale. It's a fish. It's a cartilaginous fish. It's a shark. And then there are the cow sharks, or the hexanchiforms. So they have 6 gills or 7 gills, as opposed to the 5 gills that the other orders that we were talking about have. The cow sharks live in the San Francisco Bay, deep waters, temperate waters around the world. They're a slow-moving shark, and they only have 1 dorsal fin as opposed to 2 dorsal fins. And they're really cool. I like them because they're always smiling, and they have this big green eye. And then there's the 6-gill cow shark that also lives here off the San Francisco Bay, comes into the deeper water, but can also live down thousands of feet in the deep dark. fishing around in the darkness, using those ampullae of Lorenzini and that big light receptive eye, hunting other sharks or squid or holocephalans, the ghost fish, their cousins. Yeah, they eat their cousins. And then the Clematis selaciforms are a small order. We call them the Frilled Sharks. They're a deep sea species. They'll come up at night and what's sometimes called this nocturnal migration. They're a diel. They'll come up and probably follow other animals that come up in the deep scattering layer and out of the daylight where they're not going to get predated or eaten. And then they'll migrate back down during the day, so they're nocturnal, and they migrate up and down. And these guys follow squid and other animals, and they have 300 rows of these super sharp teeth. Really cute. One cool thing about sharks is they replace their teeth. It's called serial dentition. So they have rows of teeth that are like a conveyor belt. So they feel with their teeth sometimes. Sorry about that bite, surfer. But they can grow them back if they lose a teeth, because sometimes sharks will mouth their prey before they'll bite it. And that's why we think that most shark attacks are actually mistaken identity, because the white sharks or the big sharks typically don't come back for seconds. This order was split out of the Hexanchoforms. They do have 6 gills, so again, another unusual characteristic. And there's only a couple species in one genera, so super small order. So depending if you're a lumper, or a splitter in that phylogenetic tree that we saw, the family tree of sharks, they may be in the Hexanchoform or split out. And that depends on their morphology, or it also now genetic analysis is showing us how species are related and how deep they go back into the evolutionary history of fish. So the Squantiniforms, I love these sharks. They're big, they're flat, they all kind of look the same. There's only one genus. There's I think around 9 species, including Californicus off our coast. They're bottom feeders. They're benthic, they're well camouflaged. They have these barbels, which are sensors. So besides that great sense of smell, that ampullae of Lorenzini, that electromagnetic sense, they also have these little feelers that they can feel crabs or something moving around on the bottom, and then they'll scarf them up. And they have this big wide mouth that they ambush prey on their fish or whatever comes by, and actually suck them up, and they're lightning fast. And they actually do not have an anal fin like many of the other sharks, but they shove off that lower caudal fin or tail fin, and they'll also swim at night and forage. So a very unique shark, almost fished out completely off of the California coastline. That fishery has been closed, but they are threatened or endangered, like little species off the Mediterranean, around the world, including Africa. So another really cool group, the sharks that we call the dogfish sharks. Our first lecture in Live Like a Shark series, we talked about the squalids, the squaliforms, the dogfish. Well, they're not all dogs or dogfish, but they're dog-like because they swim in big packs, sometimes thousands of these sharks, and they have these 2 little spines in front of their 2 dorsal fins. They can be a deeper water shark, or they can come up to the continental shelf 100, 150 feet. This is a big commercial fishery on the East Coast. If you're in England or Western Europe and you eat fish and chips, you're probably eating spiny dogfish. So that's a species, also a different species off of our coast, Squalus acanthias. They come into the San Francisco Bay also and give birth. So San Francisco truly is the city of the shark. It has at least 7 species of shark, skates, and rays that live year-round, and many that give birth. And we're going to talk about that in our next lecture, next Friday, the city of the shark. And we're going to show a film that I made with the Aquarium of the Bay on local shark species. If you hang on and tune in later, I'm going to share a film that we did with Sea Shepherd on, it was done by Wired Magazine Online on our work trying to protect sharks from the shark fin trade. So we try to incorporate film in these Live Like a Shark webinars. So the squaliforms of the dogfish, remember we said squalus, that's what the Latin name, they used to call them sea dogs. Pliny the Elder first described these in his Natural Historis. But they're not just dogs. There's the Kite Fin Sharks. This is a new species, Mollusquama mississippiensis, that was just described. These kite fins look like little sperm whales. And they have these pockets just behind their spiracle or their breathing organ. And that contains a bioluminescence. And they actually can exhaust this bioluminescence, and that's either used to avoid getting eaten by maybe a 6-gill shark, or to confuse their prey so they can scarf up their little squid or whatever they're out there foraging on. It's a deeper water shark. It was believed that there was only one species. Now there are 2. So we're discovering new species all the time, even as we are losing species through overfishing and the shark fin trade. The lantern sharks, another deep sea species or a group, actually family. The sleeper sharks, really weird, including the Greenland shark, the oldest lived vertebrate. We used to think that the bowhead whale on the East Coast was the oldest at around 200 years. Well, an analysis was done on the sclera on the eye, the cornea that is, and using stable isotopes, and it was determined that these sharks live between 3 and even as late as 500 years. This shark may not be able to even be reproductively active until 60 or 70 years. So if we're out fishing, it's really easy to overfish sharks because of late onset of reproduction, few young, and their long lives actually and long gestation periods adapt them to their role very well, but it doesn't lend them well to their survival now that humans have come around. So many species have few young, long gestation periods, 3 years in a spiny dogfish. Think of that, Mom, being pregnant 3 years, no fun. And so these are the squaliforms, a highly diverse group of fish. And there's a small group called the echirhinoforms, for spine, the spiny or the prickly sharks or the bramble sharks. They're a very small group of benthic or bottom-living sharks, and they forage on the bottom. They're more flaccid bodied. They're not big, strong swimmers. They have that kind of floppy tail that it's not a strong lunate or heterocircle tail like the fast-swimming sharks have, but they kind of go along with these sort of almost lobe-shaped fins and eat crustaceans like crabs and slow-moving fish. Sometimes they're also eating things that are dead on the bottom. So a lot of these sharks are important not only as apex predators, the top of the food chain that regulate the lower levels, they're also important at the bottom and have impacts coming up to the health of the food chain because they're eating the dead or the food that might be decaying and cause bacteria or anaerobic decay. So sharks eat the sick, the stupid, and the slow, but they also eat the dead stuff, so they keep the ocean healthy. That's why we want to live like a shark. We want to keep the ocean healthy. You don't have to eat the sick, the stupid, or the slow, but maybe sometimes you do when you go have a hamburger. And then there's the saw sharks, the Pristiophoriforms, not to be confused with the sawfish. And they're these highly unusual shark that has this long rostrum with teeth on it and these barbels that are sensory. So a rostrum is sort of a snout. And these sharks are very basal. They go deep back in the evolutionary history. There's only about 9 species, I believe. I'll have to check. There were 2 new species that were just discovered last year, though. So what we're discovering is when we split these sharks over their range, we realize they are more threatened or more difficult to manage in a fishery because they don't have a broad range. All of these sharks are listed under CITES Convention 1, the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species, Appendix 1 that is. That means it makes it illegal to trade, but they are getting killed for that rostrum, for curios. Mostly they get caught up as bycatch. They get tangled up in nets. Really elegant, beautiful sharks, some of them quite large, 12, 14, 15 feet. And then there's the batoids, which we'll talk about in another talk. I was informed or advised, don't talk so long. You can vote on the comments. But the batoids are actually the most speciose, or the most species in the shark or the elasmobrain group. They're flattened. They live in the benthos primarily, except for the manta rays and the mobula rays. And the sawfish are, again, looking at the sawfish and backing up to the saw sharks. Saw sharks are much larger. Their teeth are actually uniform, whereas the sawfish, they variegate. Actually, it's the opposite. The sawfish are more heterodentous, homodentous. Never mind. Their teeth are the same. That's how you can tell. But they're actually much smaller. And these are in the rays. And you can actually see their spiracle, which is a hole behind their eye that allows them to pump water past their gills, where they get their oxygen. So not all sharks have to swim to breathe. This is a different kind of ventilation or respiration that sharks have. And the gills are on the underside of the head of the rays, and it exhausts that water that's pumped in through the spiracle. Pretty cool. And then there's the super out group, the holocephali, or the ghost fish. And these are really basal. These are way split out if you go back to our family tree. They're slow swimming. They live thousands of feet deep. They live solitarily. They only aggregate to breed or to feed. Perhaps a dead whale comes out. There aren't that many species in this group. Only two genus. Okay, wow. Part 2. If you're just joining us, this is Live Like a Shark. And now I want to talk about what we do and how you can help. So if you're just joining us, this is the Live Like a Shark webinar. I'm going to address a couple comments. Hi, I'm David. I'm over here in the corner of your screen, and we are shark stewards. Somebody is asking, what species of shark is least scared of scuba divers? I don't know. Because hammerheads, this must be a diver, because hammerheads are really shy. And hammerheads actually are not as shy as we think. Hammerheads are afraid of our bubbles. So if you're a free diver, we just watched this great film that's in the Ocean Film Festival made by a friend of mine, Roberto Ochoa. It's called Galapagos Evolution. And these free divers are diving with these hammerheads. And the sharks are not as afraid that they are unless you're a scuba diver. If you're a scuba diver, they're really wary of the bubbles. But I didn't answer your question, Sage. What species is the least scared of scuba divers? White sharks aren't very scared of scuba divers. They are curious. White sharks will come over and investigate. Like this picture, I was not in a cage behind me, and that shark wanted to check me out, and then he swam away. So they're not very afraid because, they can get up to 5,000 pounds. They're huge, 20, 21 feet. They don't need to be scared. Other species, like whale sharks, which are very gentle, and they typically don't have that many predators, tend not to mind divers, including scuba divers. So I can't tell you which one is the least. I'll tell you one thing, blue sharks are really hard to photograph. They're really skittish. They'll come in, dart in. Mako sharks the same. A lot of these fast-swimming sharks are shy, probably because we look like predators. Our eyes in the front of our heads, we're big, we got weird stuff on, and sometimes we have a net or a spear. So they're wise to be skittish if they want to survive. So the real threat to sharks is overfishing. Historically, the biggest threats to sharks was from bycatch, primarily in the tuna and swordfish fishery. So these vessels called long lines, they have long lines. There are thousands of them out there in the middle of the ocean and highly unregulated. A lot of IUU, or illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. Typically, the sharks were let go because there was no market for them. They're not as palatable. They have a lot of urea in their bloodstream, which helps them regulate their osmotic balance, but it also decays to ammonia very quickly. So sharks don't really lend themselves to human feeding that well. and they spoil the other fish in the hold. So typically these sharks were threatened and still are as bycatch or bykill. Historically, many fish that were caught, about every other fish was a shark. So hundreds of thousands, millions of sharks were killed this way every year. So hundreds of millions of these sharks over time. In fact, it's an estimate that 100 million sharks are killed each year, including the rays, through shark finning and the shark fin trade, not only as bycatch, but in the shark fin trade. But we've been overfishing all species, including species that we really don't care about, like blue sharks typically, very inedible. They're a beautiful shark. They're super shy. They're one of those carchariniform sharks, fast swimming, pelagic, migratory. This slide from Daniel Pauly shows the distribution of fishing on blue sharks specifically. So this is the density of long-line fisheries. So you see it gets fewer around the margins of the coastline and out there in the middle of the Pacific and Atlantic and Indian Oceans where these sharks are. They are highly targeted and killed for their fins. So there was just a paper that was published by Doug McCauley that overlapped the range of sharks with the fishing boats. And a blue shark spends 50 to 70% of its life interacting or in sharing the same range as the fishing boat. So that it's swimming around only 30% of its time is it truly safe from humans. Sharks are collapsing as all large fish worldwide. We have overfished the oceans. 80% of the oceans, world's oceans, are exploited or in a state of collapse. Worldwide, about 90% of the large predatory fish are gone. The swordfish, the big tuna, the sharks. In some cases, it's been estimated that 99% of the oceanic whitetip has lost its range, meaning it only has 1% left represented in its population. They are disappearing from the planet. 1/3 of sharks are threatened with extinction. And this was in a 2014 study by Nick Dulvey. 2014. This study needs to be updated. I would estimate it'd be more. About half the sharks are data deficient. 25% are threatened with extinction or endangered or vulnerable. And that is primarily because of illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, and shark finning is part of that. Shark finning is a deplorable, cruel, unsustainable practice of catching a shark, slicing its fins off and discarding it, or increasingly now actually keeping the shark but going after it because of this fin to make shark fin soup, which is primarily Chinese, but an Asian delicacy. And this is associated with the rise in wealth in Asia, primarily China. So there's suddenly this dish of the emperor 1,000 years ago is now the dish of the middle class and the wealthy. So now these people want this status symbol, shark fin soup, and it's the highest priced seafood in the world, $600 a kilogram. One fin can be $100. This is really driving sharks to extinction. That's why Shark Stewards got involved starting in 2003. We introduced the California shark fin ban with Assemblyman Jared Huffman and Paul Fong. It was a bipartisan, biracial bill. We had a coalition of Chinese Americans. This is not a race thing. This is not slamming the Chinese. This is about education. These people suddenly have wealth, but they don't have education. Just like Americans in the 1950s, when we were buying cars and refrigerators and houses and climate change started to escalate, we didn't know. We just wanted to live a better life. Well, that's what's going on elsewhere in the world, and we're fishing exotic wildlife. So we're trying to make the shark fin trade illegal. We have in 13 states, and we have a bill in the U.S. Congress. We worked in Canada, and we're working overseas in Asia to educate our brothers and sisters overseas that shark fin is unsustainable. It's actually really bad for you, has mercury and organics, and we don't need it. We need sharks in the ocean much more than we need sharks in the sea. So if you're just tuning in, hi, I'm David. I'll just kind of come over here. I'm going to go to, whoops, where am I? Talking head full. Hi, that's me. How are you? Live like a shark. My name's David McGuire. We're making these masks so we can shelter in place, stay healthy. You can, for a $20 donation up at the top at Facebook or at sharkstewards.org, you can get one of these hand-painted masks. Protect yourself, protect others, and help us protect sharks. So this is number 3, where we just went through our diversity of sharks, the shark group, and we didn't even touch the rays, barely, just a little touch, and the holocephalans. So another talk, we'll talk more about the rays, because rays are super cool. We call them the flat sharks. They are the most speciose. They have about 1,000 species compared to about 550 or so of what we consider the sharky sharks, the torpedo shape or weird-looking sharks like the Orectolobiforms or Carcharrhiniforms, the confusing carpet sharks. And we're doing this every Friday at noon. We'll be talking about San Francisco Bay sharks next. We'll be talking about plastics in the ocean, diving with sharks, and ecotourism. So tune in. We're recording these on Facebook also. So if you go to our Shark Stewards channel on YouTube and Facebook, you can watch these again or share them, please. And like us on Instagram and Facebook. So somebody asked, Gretchen, you're a scientist, what does basal mean? Not basil or basal, B-A-S-A-L. And that means highly conserved. So we talked about some of the older shark groups that predate the dinosaurs, that lived 250 million years ago or 200 million years ago in the Carboniferous, the golden age of the sharks. They evolved, they radiated. Some sharks have more conserved characteristics. So, for example, the Hexanchidae, the 7-gill sharks, they only have one dorsal fin. They're slow-moving, kind of more lobed fins. They're a little bit more, some people would say, primitive, but they're not primitive. They've survived 5 great extinction events. They've been swimming around very happily for hundreds of millions of years, thank you, until humans came along and started lopping their fins off or overfishing. So basal it's deep down in the family tree, which also means these sharks are so highly evolved that they've done just fine. Like the Frilled Sharks, they look like eels. They have this eel-shaped body. They live in the deep sea. And they have very conserved characteristics because they're very successful. They've done great. Why change if it works? And that's how nature works, and that's how evolution works. So I want to share with you a film that was made by Wired Magazine. And this goes back when we were advocating for the California shark fin ban. So it's kind of old. I just found it. Enjoy it. Live like a shark. It's been estimated that 90% of many of the large pelagic sharks have been fished out of the oceans in the last 50 years. 10% left within 50 years. We're just too good at fishing, and now we've got this practice that's actually targeting sharks. It's a real ocean crisis.
Sharks have shaped evolution in the ocean. The fact that fish are camouflaged, their speed, their behavior has all been influenced by the shark. So you remove the shark and then you can cause some serious problems with diversity in the oceans.
Shark finning is the process where a shark is caught, it's brought aboard, quite often it's clubbed or stabbed to avoid harm to the fishermen, and the fins are cut off and the animal is thrown back over the side alive. The shark fins are very valuable. They're the most valuable dried seafood product per weight. One fin can cost hundreds of dollars. It's highly prized in Asian cuisine for shark fin soup.
And this was a ceremonial dish at one time, hundreds of years ago. Unfortunately, it's become extremely popular in banquets and business luncheons. So where once there was just a few people eating shark fins, now there are literally millions of people eating shark fin, and it's decimating the species literally around the world ocean. Sharks are extremely vulnerable to overfishing because they have very late onset of reproduction, sometimes 15, sometimes 20 years for some of the larger sharks. They're much like humans in that respect. They also have few young. So if you're killing a shark, you may be killing a shark that's never had a chance to reproduce, or you may be killing a shark that can only have maybe 25 or 30 children, if you will, or pups, in its entire lifetime. It's not like a fish that can have millions of eggs, that can broadcast millions of eggs out there and have a high percentage of success. You kill a great white shark and you can knock out a generation in a local population.
The sharks are going to be gone in decades, not hundreds of years. They're going to be gone in a decade or two. They're just going to be gone. It's already happening in places where there are specific shark species that you don't see anymore in certain parts of the world at all. They're never sighted anymore. And it's not because they've decided to go somewhere else. It's because there simply aren't any left. Because if you can get $12 for a fin, US dollars for a fin, in a place where you might make $9 a month in wages, you'll kill as many sharks as you possibly can in a month to make 100 times what your normal income would be. And that's the profit motive. That's the incentive. That's why in places like Galapagos, they'll kill 1 million sharks in a year. In one island chain, they'll kill 1 million sharks and 1 million fins at $12 a piece.
Sharks mean a healthy ocean. If we're taking sharks out, we're taking the regulator out. We're taking the animals that are really keeping things clean, that are really keeping animals strong. And it's not only the sharks that are going, it's the big fish.
Really, they're shooting themselves in their own foot. So by killing that apex predator, they change the whole pyramid and the fish will go somewhere else. The same thing that happened in Southern California. You kill all the sheephead that eat the urchins, and then the urchins explode, they eat the kelp, and then the kelp goes away, and then all the species on the west coast of the United States have disappeared because there's no kelp, because they all depended on living in the kelp. So one thing always affects something else.
You can go down to San Francisco Chinatown right now and walk into any number of restaurants and order a bowl of shark fin soup. It's not illegal. It's commonly served. It's everywhere. It's really not a cultural thing. We can change our cultural practices if they're not sustainable. The Chinese binding feet, that was a cultural practice. And that's not really observed anymore, and it's not really looked favorably upon. So we can change what we consider our cultural values into what are sustainable values. The shark fin trade is like a black market. It's like drugs. It's small, it's easily transported, it's easily smuggled, and it's destroying our world ocean. It's killing the regulators of the oceans. Hawaii just signed a bill that's going into law to ban shark fins landing in the whole state of Hawaii. This is landmark legislation. And
well, if you're listening, hi, I'm David, and this is the Live Like a Shark, and I think our film, our wired shark film on Shark Stewards might have just fizzled out. You can watch that film on our website at sharkstewards.org on our media page. You can also watch it on our YouTube channel. So hi, welcome. I'm wearing my Live Like a Shark mask. Hi, I'm David. We're Shark Stewards. And sorry about that lack of volume on the movie. You can get one of these masks for a $20 donation, hand painted, and stay safe and live like a shark and take care of yourself and take care of others during this health crisis. So we're talking about health, we're talking about ocean health, and we do that by saving sharks from overfishing and the shark fin trade, but also protecting critical marine habitat in these marine protected areas, like we have off of our California coastline and in Southeast Asia. So this is episode 3 of the Live Like a Shark series. We're going to continue on with a few more slides about what we do and how you can help. So we introduced legislation to stop the shark fin trade. There we go. Because shark finning is killing millions, if not 100 million sharks a year, species are threatened with extinction because of this delicacy shark fin soup, but also just because of our general disregard for sharks. They're not fuzzy and cute, so they're not as huggable as a panda bear. They're a little bit harder to save because people have these negative impressions. Sharks have a bad rap. Jaws didn't help. I love that movie. It definitely made a lot of
In the water. You go in the water.
What?
Sharks in the water.
Oh, thank you, Quint. It had a big impact on our culture and our zeitgeist. Unfortunately, many people are frightened of sharks and they don't want to protect them. So a lot of these programs like Shark Week tend to be shark attack, and that's how we think of sharks, when really, as we were talking about earlier, sharks are highly diverse, a broad group of cartilaginous fish, highly specialized, filling every ecological niche in the ocean. From the bottom feeders, the mud suckers, they eat the ones that are carrion feeders like Greenland sharks, the big predators, the apex predators, the mesopredators. Sharks have been living for millions of years doing just fine until we came along. This shark was described about 50 or 60 years ago. It was in a natural history museum. I think it was the British Natural History Museum. And it was just declared extinct. So scientists looked around into the field. It was caught from specimens as bycatch, but it was declared officially extinct. This is a carcharodonid shark. Carcharodonus obsolerus means obsolete. So sharks are going extinct sometimes before we know their life history, how many babies they can have, how long they live, any of their characteristics, including how important they are. It's important to keep all life. We should respect all species, from the insects up to the whale sharks and the whales. And because we're part of that ecosystem, we need all components, not just humans. So our job is to stop these species from going extinct. I'm going to go back to my slideshow because I don't know what happened there. Let me try this again. And if you're just joining in, this is confusing. I'm David McGuire. We're Shark Stewards, part of the Earth Island Institute. I want to thank people who are just joining. I know there's some kids out there. I heard that Heirs to Our Oceans, a great youth group, might have joined in. I think Tommy and Lucy are watching. If I haven't had too much science, hi you guys from California. I hope you're sheltered in place. I want to shout out to the Berkeley students who are studying at home, and all of my friends and family. And you know, we've actually had a following of over 1,700 so far. So what can you do to keep sharks from going extinct? Well, we advocate for policy change. Currently, there is the Shark Fin Sales Act in the U.S. Senate. Who knows what will happen? The Senate is trying to provide money to deal with this health crisis, among other things. This did pass the House that would ban the whole sale and trade of shark fin in the U.S. Canada just did it last year. It's now in the Senate. We have a petition with over 125,000 signatures that we send to senators. We call them up. You can let your senator know that you care about the ocean, you care about the health of sharks, and you want to save them by controlling this harmful trade. You can help protect the whole ocean, not just the earth. The whole earth, not just the green part, not just the dirt. 71% of our planet is ocean.
Only about 5% is truly protected under marine protected areas, or parks, or national monuments, or our forested areas on the land. Something like 15 or 16% of our land is protected under these no-take areas, or no hunting, or no cutting, while the ocean is a wide open 95%. So there's a goal that has been set by the Convention of Biological Diversity, and we are joining in to Love 3030, protect 30% of the oceans by 2030. At 5%, we've got 25% to go. So you can help support our work here in our national marine sanctuaries, including the Greater Farallon National Marine Sanctuary right off California outside the Golden Gate, with 3 other national marine sanctuaries in California. You can join one of our tours out to the Farallon Islands, which is a foraging area for that lovely critter up on the top, the great white shark, or as we say, white sharks, because great is superfluous. We don't need to say great because they're already great. The sanctuary has recently expanded under Congressman Huffman and Woolsey, more than doubled the area, so over 3,000 square miles of protected area from oil drilling and bottom dredging and other biological management. You can still fish, and there is still fishing, however. You can't fish for white sharks because they're a protected species, but you can fish for a salmon shark, a mako shark, a thresher shark, and all the other species that happen to swim through the sanctuary. So it's not truly a sanctuary for everyone, but there is some protection. Even greater protection, however, is in our state network of MPAs, or marine protected areas. And we'll have a whole talk about this. So this is our Live Like a Shark webinar series. Thanks for listening. If you didn't get to see the entire movie, go to sharkstewards.org or our YouTube page that has Shark Stewards YouTube page has a lot of movies, over 200 movies on some of the work that we've done over the years on ocean and shark conservation. So I want to give a shout out here to my friends in Timor-Leste. Aladdin, I saw someone that I met and dove with on Otawaro Island when we were doing an assessment of this incredible nation, one of the newest, the second newest nation in the world. It's had a lot of challenges historically, but now has a lot of passion and energy. This young nation has the most incredible reefs I have ever seen. Amazing diving, amazing people, and an incredible world to protect. 6 species of sea turtle, dugongs, 26 species of cetaceans. We're going to share a film that we made in one of our next Live Like a Shark webinars, because we have hope, and we introduced a hope spot in Timor-Leste. So we'll share more about that with Dr. Earl, her deepness, and Mission Blue. So we work in Southeast Asia, in Singapore, in China, in Malaysia, and now in Timor-Leste, and trying to inspire youth and passion through film and education so we can stop eating these wild animals. If you want to participate, we now have the Earth Week BioBlitz, Backyard BioBlitz. You can download the Cal Academy's iNaturalist app down there in the corner and use your smartphone and make observations. We're trying to hit 1,000. No matter where you live, you take a picture, it'll tell you what it is if you don't know, or at least scientists can confirm or vet it. So it's a way of producing data through citizen science, which we also do here in the San Francisco Bay through a similar project called Shark Watch on iNaturalist. So it's fun, you can interact, and you can contribute to science. We have an Aquatic Park Stewards program in our national park, inspiring youth, going into the schools, bringing them down to the beach, discovering how they can be part of the solution, like you can be part of the solution by using less plastic, by picking up butts. We made a film called Hang On To Your Butts, and it was in the International Ocean Film Festival. It's on our website and our YouTube channel, and it was a youth-made film that won an award. We also won an award in the National Park System for our youth volunteer program, cleaning up the beach, quantifying trash, and contributing by citizen science to a NOAA database, and also showing the park that, you know what,
You have staff that clean the park every day, yet we pick up 600 cigarette butts in this Aquatic Park Stewards program. If you smoke, now would be a good time to stop. Don't start. It's not healthy, but with this respiratory crisis, you don't want to be smoking. And education, of course, is really important. This is a University of San Francisco class, but we were in the primary schools. We're actually talking to kids now on live webinars because we can't go into the classroom. We lead expeditions. This one's to Guadalupe, but off the Farallones in Southeast Asia. Hopefully you can join us in Indonesia at the Source Conservation Lab. Learn how to dive. If you don't know how to dive with us as a citizen scientist doing reef check, count some sharks, help us track them and tag them, and use that information to save them. Take action. Go to our website, please. We have online petitions. You can talk to your legislators. You can contribute, support Shark Stewards at Earth Island Institute. Raise awareness. Share the word. Sharks are important. Sharks are disappearing. Sharks are not scary. Sharks should be scared. They're not the villains. Sharks are the victims. They're not dangerous. They're endangered. Participate in these science programs. You can save a shark at home by not using a straw or single-use plastic. Join us in our social media. Donate if you can. If you can't see it on your screen once this webinar is over, you can go to the Shark Stewards Facebook page and there's a donation link. And please, if you contribute $20, you can get one of these cool handmade face masks. We've been seeing them around on Facebook. They're made from t-shirt material. They're reusable, rewashable, and they're cool. So, let's see. We just had a couple more questions. Tommy Kaufman out there in Indiana wants to know how many great white sharks or white sharks are there in the world? That's a good question, Tommy. We don't know. It's really hard because you can't go into the ocean and count them all. They move around. They migrate thousands of miles every year. What we do know here off California is that they're on the increase. The estimate has been somewhere between 1,000 at the bottom or 3,000 at the top. I think it's unlikely that there are 3,000 white sharks in our population. At one time, the estimate was 3,000 globally. There are major aggregations of white sharks off of our coast of the Northeast Pacific, off of the southern edge of Australia and western margin and New Zealand, off of South Africa. There used to be a population in the Mediterranean. It is extirpated or extinct. There are a few, hardly any, off of West Africa. And there is a small population that we're seeing from the tag work that's done by the White Shark Conservation Project with Greg Scommel off of the Atlantic that's causing a little bit of concern because they're kind of going back to Montauk because of the seal population. And people are getting concerned that they're going to get bit by a white shark. Well, we don't worry about white sharks, most of us here, because we know sharks aren't out to get us, that we're not their intended prey. So let me just turn that scary music off. Or we could do this one.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
We do need a bigger boat. We need a bigger boat to take more people out to the Farallon Islands and celebrate sharks, learn more about sharks, collect data through citizen science, and being active. So you can join us saving sharks, especially threatened species like white sharks, but also the sharks that we don't know about, that we tend not to care about because they don't get movies made about them. They're not quite as sexy and glamorous as the big laminate sharks. Those carpet sharks are important too, and they're worth saving, and yet they're getting scooped up in nets like the rays by the tens or hundreds of millions. Well, we're going to end, but I want to end with a note. We have friends in China and Southeast Asia, and this is not a race thing. This virus is not a Chinese virus. Yes, it emanated there, but don't listen to the rhetoric. We are smarter than this. We are all one people. We're connected by the ocean. This is our shark stewards, Darcy Liu, who's leading a shark campaign in China. We have friends in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia and Indonesia, who are Chinese, who love sharks. They don't eat shark fin soup, and they're trying to tell their people, look, this is unsustainable. So respect the shark, and let's respect each other during this crisis, please. And that includes taking care of yourself. You saw the movie, you saw my hair. So, well, you know, I'm getting shaggy, and I'm getting like a whale shark. It's sheltered in place here. But I still got my hair, but it's a little bit more gray than it used to be in that film. If you didn't get to see it earlier, it's on our website at Shark Stewards. So we're just about wrapping up. This is our next week's shark, the City of the Shark. In this series, we're going to talk about plastic pollution, diving with sharks, and I definitely want to talk about the Hope Spot that we're going to announce on World Oceans Day, June 8th. And I hope that we're all outside, back in the ocean, back in school, loving each other, being healthy, living like a shark, and helping save them. So thanks a lot. Volunteer, jump in on the BioBlitz wherever you live, and thanks for watching. And join us again next week. And don't forget to live like a shark. So thanks, Dr. Earl. Check our website out in a week, I hope. We're going to be launching this with our new brand. And I want to thank some of our major sponsors. But I definitely, most of all, I want to thank you for listening and sharing this message. Bye now.